You want to know what I imagine when I think of taxes? Pizza. Your paycheck is a pizza pie, and just when you sit down to enjoy it, that is, spend your hard-earned money, taxes come and... So what are taxes even for? What do people think about taxes?
Do you know where your taxes go?
I believe so.
Probably the government, I'd assume, supporting things that a community needs.
How do you feel about paying your taxes?
I know nothing about it. I just look at my paycheck every week and I just see the taxes they deduct from it.
I heard it's very complicated.
It's very complicated, yeah.
Do you know how to do your taxes? Because I certainly don't. So what are taxes? And what are taxes even for? This is Your World on Money. According to Investopedia, taxes are mandatory fees that both individuals and companies have to pay the government, whether local, regional, or national. So why are we even giving the government taxes? Well, taxes are the main source of revenue for most governments. Among many other uses, this tax revenue is spent to improve and maintain public infrastructure, fund public services, emergency services, and welfare programs. They cover a lot. Before I get into how this directly affects you and I, let's look back to see how taxes began.
The first recorded modern tax was in the form of grain in ancient Egypt. At the time, Egypt didn't have coin money, so grain represented a tangible store of value that could easily be collected, traded, and redistributed throughout society. So how much did the pharaoh tax his subjects for living in his kingdom? 20% of all grain harvests. In ancient Rome, Julius Caesar was the first to implement a sales tax across the entire empire of a 1% flat rate. And when it comes to the US, you might recall that the British government imposed taxes on their American colonies as a source of revenue to pay off their debt from many wars worldwide. And American colonies finally said enough is enough, and thus the American Revolution was born. Okay, that's a lot of history, but do you get the point? And how do taxes affect us today?
Hello, AJ. Thank you so much for being here today.
Sure thing.
Could you tell me, the purpose behind taxes?
Taxes are the budget of the government that you contribute to as a participating member of society. I'm going to live in a place, the streets are going to get paved, I'm going to be kept safe, I'm going to be able to get an ambulance to a hospital. That's the purpose of taxes, right? The government gets a pile of money and they distribute it to help individuals.
Okay, very helpful. What taxes am I even paying? I know that there's 3 basic types of taxes. Am I correct?
Yeah, typically, most people, the biggest tax they're going to pay is income tax, right? That's going to be money that they earn. They're going to pay a certain amount of tax on that. That's going to go into that government budget. Then there's going to be sales tax, which typically funds more local governments, typically like state governments or even city governments. And then we have taxes on your assets or things you own. But those are the 3 main ones that most people are concerned with on their tax return.
How do I figure out how much in taxes I owe?
Yep. So this is the big secret of taxes. We have tax brackets in this country, which means that roughly your first $10,000 of income is taxed at 10%. And then the next little chunk is taxed at 12%, and then so on and so forth. Different portions of your income have been taxed at different rates. So at the end of the day, you're not paying what bracket you're in, you're paying a percentage of each little chunk.
So what is the difference between state and local taxes? I feel very unfamiliar with this.
Yep. Whatever state is your home base, that is where you will potentially pay state taxes. And then if you happen to live in a locality like beautiful New York City, you may also owe additional city taxes on top of that. We've got a bunch of other things that the city needs to have its own budget to support the people that live here.
We need a separate budget for the rats.
Yes, we do need it. Yes, exactly.
Okay, so I'm self-employed. Mm-hmm. Maybe not everyone watching this is, but could you briefly explain how people who are self-employed pay taxes?
When you're self-employed, there are no taxes being taken out. It is your responsibility to pay your taxes quarterly. So we have to be able to estimate how much money we've made each quarter and make a down payment on that tax that we owe throughout the year.
Okay, lastly, is it better to get a lot of money in your tax return, or is it better to get less money back?
you get to control how much is withheld. You've probably maybe heard of this form called W-4, which you can submit to your employer whenever you want. Maybe you do get a big refund back and you don't like that. You need that money to pay your rent or feed your family. You can actually adjust your withholding so you get much closer. Typically I like a little buffer. I like a refund at the end of the year. It just feels better. Getting a surprise tax bill is one of the worst feelings in the world.
Wow, okay. This is a big life hack.
Yeah, of course.
I really enjoyed learning that taxes don't have to be as terrifying or dramatic as I've made them out to be in my own life. There are actual benefits, not just to yourself, but to society as a whole. If you are employed by a company, there are some parts of your paycheck that are automatically taken out, such as Social Security, unemployment tax, Medicare taxes, etc. But you will fill out your W-4, which dictates how much income tax you have taken out. If you are self-employed, you're responsible for figuring out how much in taxes you give, and our expert recommends filing quarterly. Just remember, the most important thing about taxes is you have to pay them.
How much? Let's wait for this motorcycle. Okay, how much? Oh my God, it's going all the way around.